Hello and welcome to Shock Value, and today is a wonderful day. Today is a glorious day. Today is a spectacular day because today is the first ever episode of Shock Value right here on the Suspended Disbelief podcast. Now, I was told that I can talk about whatever I wanted to. Whatever I wanted to. Whether it was about wrestling, whether it was about video games. I have some video games going right now. A little bit of 2K19. Some Royal Rumble action going on for you in case y'all get tired of, whatever the hell I'm talking about. Now, took me a little bit of time trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about. So, in the future, whatever you guys want to talk about, just go ahead and let us know right here on the Suspended Disbelief podcast. It could be anything about what y'all want to talk about. In the meantime, what I want to talk about is my current stance and thoughts, and how those thoughts have changed throughout the years on hardcore and deathmatch style wrestling. Now, this kind of comes up, amidst, some recent incidents that happened with an actor known as David Arquette. Now, David Arquette, if you don't remember, had a somewhat of a stint in WCW back during the Monday Night Wars. During this time, I believe, WWE or WWF at the time was pretty much they done won by this point, and lo and behold, they decided to put the WCW title on David Arquette, and I can remember back then seeing it and just shaking my head and just going, okay, this is pretty fucking stupid, but whatever. Fast forward now, and David Arquette's back in the news again as far as when it comes to wrestling. And the first I heard about it was when he was a guest not that long ago on the Not Sam Wrestling podcast. And he was talking about how he was getting back into shape and he was training and he was getting ready to get back into the ring. And I was like, okay, this is strange. Alright, didn't think nothing of it. And it wasn't too long after that I saw this video of our guy, old David Arquette, in a wrestling ring with none other than a man known as Nick Gage. Now, if you don't know who Nick Gage is notorious for being a pretty badass motherfucker in the world of deathmatch style wrestling, hardcore style wrestling. Now, this is David Arquette's first wrestling match back. And well, long story short, he gets fucked up pretty bad. Kind of turns into a shoot. He at least finishes the match. Now, I had a couple people tell me, like, hey, did you see this? Like, you gotta give the guy credit. That took some balls, Yeah, I guess it takes some balls, but as far as my stance on the whole subject of hardcore and deathmatch style wrestling, back in the day I used to love it, and I still kind of love it, and just in a different way now. Back then, I just really loved it, but as time went on and as I got older and got smarter to the business and learned to love the business more and more as I got older, I just kind of felt like, I got desensitized to that style of wrestling. I mean, I like it, as long as it means something. If it means something, then I think it has more impact. But if you're doing the same thing over and over every night, you're gonna get tired of it. You're gonna get desensitized to it. Now, prime example, look at the last woman standing match between Becky Lynch and Charlotte. It's just like, oh my God, they just took it to a whole new level. And when you kind of look at the surface, they didn't, do anything too crazy, but just the build up and the storytelling within that match, was just phenomenal, and that's what made it work. That's what made it more impactful, And as for me, I like the death match style wrestling, probably just purely for the shock value. That's the name of the show. But yeah, I used to really love it back in the day, but now maybe not so much. And as far as David Arquette is concerned, first of all, I don't know who the promoter was for that show, and whoever that promoter was, be honest with you, they probably shouldn't be putting on another show ever in their life. They should just hang it up, find something else to do, probably sell cars or something. Because, he had David Arquette had no business going into a death match with someone the likes of Nick Cage, who by the way, was back in 2011, I believe, was convicted of bank robbery. He actually pleaded guilty of it. But yeah, just because you want to try to prove something, or get respect, from a group of fans, I don't know if those are the fans you want to get the respect from, because nothing against anybody who likes whatever, because to me wrestling, wrestling is like movies. There's different types of movies. You have your action movies, you have your comedies, you have your dramas, you have all different types of genres, and you have this kind of the same thing with wrestling. You have your big budget WWEs, and then you kind of have your off the wall like Lucha Underground, and you have just kind of like your anything can happen, PWG style wrestling, and then of course you got your hardcore stuff, and I used to love watching the hardcore stuff, way back in the day, back in Japan, back when Mick Foley used to do death matches, I used to love that shit, and I still do. I almost like watching those more than I do any of the new stuff, And I've been in a couple of death matches myself, and nothing too crazy. I mean, we had barbed wire for ropes, and we had used a couple light tubes, but we didn't have like light tubes on the ropes or any crazy shit like that. I got a few cuts and scrapes and shit, but I never got really too hurt, but I could have. And at the end of the day, it probably took some time off my life, probably, yeah. And that's kind of like the point I'm getting at, is like there's no point in doing it if it's not gonna serve any purpose, Especially, is it worth taking years off your career, and not just your career but your life, just to almost fucking bleed to death inside of a ring, in front of 100 people, if you're lucky. I think it's kind of pointless and dumb. It does nothing for the business. It doesn't add anything to the business. If anything, it kind of exposes the business a little bit, in my opinion. But like I said, that's just my opinion. I still like watching it from time to time, but I don't take it seriously. I can't suspend my disbelief. But yeah, that's about all I wanted to really talk about. But yeah, so like I said, if there's anything you guys like to discuss in the future, just let us know right here on Suspended Disbelief. And oh yeah, hi Rain. Hi, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope the guys are being nice. I'm a big fan of your work. Hopefully one day you come back to the podcast. Hopefully I get to do some back and forth with you guys. So y'all have a good one. And remember, tune in to Suspended Disbelief. And don't forget the shock value with Future Shock. Woo!